Hi, in this video we will continue working with the listening section part A of the TOEFL test. This time we are going to be focusing on 3 questions that are important in order to understand the short conversations better. The first question is, who is the speaker? The second question is, where does the conversation take place? The third question is, what will the man or the woman probably do next? Let's do some exercises before we actually start applying this knowledge to the kind of TOEFL questions. On your screen, you have 5 different conversations, and on the right, you have the people that are speaking on each of these conversations. Take a moment to match the conversation with the different speakers. In order to do this, it is important that you pay attention to keywords. For example, the first conversation says, "Should we go to a movie tonight?" "No, let's stay home and watch TV." According to the context, we can conclude that the people that are speaking in this conversation are friends. Why? Because they want to see a movie. And then because they decided to stay home and watch TV. With these keywords, we can infer that the relationship that exists between these two people is friend-friend. Take a moment in order to decide the people that are speaking in the other 4 conversations. Conversation number 2 says, "I hope you'll still accept my final paper." Well, it is 3 days late, but I guess I can still take it. The people in this conversation are a student and a teacher. If you notice, the keywords that help us decide this is accept my final paper and 3 days late, still take it. The third conversation says, "How long has it been since your last appointment?" Actually, I only come in when I have a toothache. From this conversation, we can decide that the people who are speaking are a dentist and a patient. Why? Because the keywords last appointment and the keyword toothache. The third conversation says, "Where can I find a book about the history of California?" Let me help you look for one in the card catalog. We can infer from these keywords that the people who are speaking in this conversation is a library user and a librarian. The library user, the keyword, find a book. The librarian, let me help you, card catalog. The last conversation says, "Please fasten your seatbelt, sir." Okay, but could you please bring me a glass of water before we take off? From this conversation, we can conclude that the people that are speaking are a flight attendant and a client. The keywords fasten, seatbelt, and bring me a glass of water, take off, we can determine that these are the people who are speaking. Okay, let's continue now with the place where the conversation is happening. We have exactly the same conversations and the same situations. Take a moment to decide where the conversations are taking place. For example, the first conversation, we said that they are friends. This conversation is taking place in an apartment. Take a moment to look at the rest of the conversations and try to decide where the conversations are taking place. We know from the previous exercise that the second conversation, a teacher and a student are talking. So this conversation is taking place in a classroom. We also know that in the third conversation, there is a patient and a dentist. So in this case, the conversation is taking place in a dentist's office. Question number 4, we know that there is a library user and a librarian, and this conversation is taking place in a library. The last conversation, as a flight attendant and a client are speaking, we know that the conversation is taking place in an airplane. It is very, very important that you identify keywords at the moment that you are listening to these short conversations in order for you to be able to determine who is speaking and where does the conversation take place. The last aspect, which is very important when trying to understand short conversations, is when you have to infer information out of the conversations. It is very common that they ask you, what will the man or woman probably do next? In this case, we have two conversations. The first one said, my baggage doesn't seem to be arriving with everyone else. Don't worry, I'm sure it will turn up shortly. What does the woman mean? In this situation, you have to infer what the woman meant when she said, don't worry, I'm sure it will turn up shortly. The answer for this question is A. She thinks the man's luggage will arrive soon. Conversation 2 says, would you like to try on another coat? No, thank you. I'll take this one. What does the woman mean? You need to infer what the woman meant when she said, no, thank you. I'll take this one. The answer for this conversation is letter D. She would like to buy the coat she has on. So if you notice, in these kinds of questions, you have to infer information. Let's see how these three aspects, who is speaking, where does the conversation take place, and what will the man or woman do next, are applied in the TOEFL questions. Here you have a conversation. Can you tell me what assignments I missed when I was absent from your class? You missed one homework assignment and a quiz. Who is the man? So from the keywords that you have in the conversation, you have to decide who the man is. In this case, the answer is a teacher. The question has keywords like assignments, absent from your class, homework assignment, quiz. So we can determine by this information that the man is a teacher. Here we have another conversation. Are you going into the water or are you just going to lie there on the sand? I think I need to put on some suntan lotion. Where does this conversation probably take place? Remember, you need to identify keywords that can help you determine the answer. The options to answer this question are at a beauty salon, at the beach, in a sandbox, at an outdoor restaurant. The answer for this question is at the beach. If you notice, the man mentions suntan lotion, but also the woman mentions water, lie there on the sand. These keywords can help you determine the answer for the question. Let's look at another conversation. Are you going to read those books here in the library? I think I'd rather check them out now and take them home. What will the man probably do next? Remember, you have to identify keywords in order to be able to answer the question. The options to answer this question are A. Sit down in the library, B. Look for some more books, C. Return the books to the shelves, D. Go to the circulation desk. The answer for this question is letter D. Go to the circulation desk. There are keywords in the conversation. For example, check them out, take them home, and also the first speaker mentions those books and the library. It is important that every single time that you listen to a short conversation in the TOEFL test, you pay lots of attention to these three pieces of information. Be sure you identify who are the speakers, the place where the conversation is taking place, and what will happen next. In this case, you have to infer information. Let's do some exercises together. You have a conversation. I'd like to deposit this check in my account, please. Would you like any cash back? Who is the woman? The options to answer this question are a store clerk, a bank teller, an accountant, or a waitress. Take a moment to analyze the conversation and the options, and we will check together. The answer to the question, who is the woman, is a bank teller. We can determine by the keywords that the man is in the bank. The keywords are deposit, check, account, cashback. Let's do another exercise together. Again, you have a short conversation. Have you deposited your paycheck yet? No, but that's next on my list of errands. What will the man probably do next? The options to answer this question are earn his paycheck, write a check for a deposit on an apartment, go to a bank, make a list of errands to run. Take a moment to analyze this conversation and the options so we can check together. The answer for this question is letter C, go to a bank. Remember, the question is, what will the man probably do next? Because of the keywords, we can determine that the man will go to a bank in order to deposit his paycheck. This is the last conversation. Later, you will have the opportunity to practice on your own in Blackboard. Did you get the bread, eggs, and milk? Now we have to stand in the line at the checkout counter. Where does this conversation probably take place? The options to answer this question are in a restaurant, at a bakery, on a farm, in a market. Take a moment to analyze this conversation and the options so we can check together. The option that answers the question is letter D, in a market. Notice that the keywords help us realize that the people are in a market. Words like stand in line, the checkout counter, but also the first speaker is using keywords like bread, eggs, and milk. Now it is your turn. Go back to our binder in Blackboard and answer the exercise. See you next time.